For Nigerians watching, happy Democracy Day and welcome to Tntv News. I am Atat Charles. Acting President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Yemi Osibanjo, says the federal government's new vision for the Niger Delta is a comprehensive peace, security and development plan that will ensure that people benefit fully from the wealth of the region. He said this during the democracy speech made earlier this morning.
Faced the challenges of the past 2 years. Our administration outlined 3 specific areas for our immediate intervention on assumption of office. These are security, corruption, and the economy. In the northeast of our country, the terrorist group Boko Haram openly challenged the sovereignty and continued existence of the Nigerian state, killing, maiming, and abducting, causing the displacement of the largest number of our citizens in recent history. Beyond the northeast, they extended their mindless killings as far away as Abuja, Kano, and Kaduna. But with new leadership and renewed confidence, our gallant military immediately began to put Boko Haram on the back foot. We have restored broken down relations with our neighbors, Chad, Cameroon, and Niger, allies without whom the war against terror would have been extremely difficult to win. We have reorganized and equipped our armed forces and inspired them to heroic feats. We have also revitalized the regional multinational joint task force by providing the required funding and leadership. The positive results are clear for all to see. In the last 2 years, close to 1 million displaced persons have returned home. 106 of our daughters from Chibok have regained. We're working with state governments and tasking our security agencies with designing effective strategies and interventions that will bring this menace to an end. We're determined to ensure that anyone who uses violence or carries arms without authority is apprehended and sanctioned.
Mixed reactions have continued to trail the All Progressive Congress local government primary election held in Lagos State that turned violent. Here's an excerpt on what went down.
Local governments had consensus candidates, but trouble started when some people in the remaining local governments thought they will be denied the chance to vote. The national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, had earlier mandated the state chapter of the party to conduct a transparent and credible election. But after the local councils who had adopted consensus candidates were announced, there was a reluctance to start the voting process, and angry delegates protested. The delegates insisted that the directive from the national leader must be strictly complied with, and failure to do that angered thousands of APC delegates who were accredited to vote in the primary election. Some of the party leaders expressed confidence that the matter will be resolved and that everyone will be allowed to have their say.
It is not all the 57 that you have consensus candidates. First, we have straight jacket consensus candidates in 18 local governments where the leaders agreed that those who did first time should be allowed to do their second term. That was agreed generally. And secondly, you also have some local governments where the leaders sat and agreed with the candidates that were running against each other to discuss amongst themselves and step down for each other where possible. And in some local governments, you have that opportunities. You had people, your other aspirants stepping down for a single aspirant. And of course, our arrangements among themselves. Okay, if you step down, you get this position. If you step down, you get that position. That is the type of consensus that was reached. However, in politics and in democracy, you will see some minorities having their say, but the majority, of course, will always have their way. But where we have such a situation, then they have to go to ballots.
When we don't have consensus, the constitution still allow 2-3 of the Article 20 says there will be primary, and that's what we're doing here. After this affirmation, the next stage will be those areas where there were no consensus, there will be primaries purely.
Those 18 local governments that they are returning for their second term, the people, the delegates from their various local governments are the ones affirming. Nobody is doing it for them. They are doing it on...
You can watch us on Facebook at the Facebook Live, or also you can watch us at the Facebook newspaper. You can also watch us on your Android platform or iOS device at the neighborhood newspaper with www.tntvonline.com. You can also watch us on YouTube at the neighborhood TV. We'll be going on a short break, and when we return, we'll be taking international news.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is TNTV News. I am Atat Charles. A church service has been held in Manchester in the United Kingdom to remember the victims of the bombing day during Arian Grande concert. The service comes as the United Kingdom announced that members of the bombers' terror network may potentially still be at large. The report.
Going to remember now those who lost their lives in the tragedy at the arena. We'll do so. I'll read out their names and then we'll simply sit in silence for a moment or two as we hold them and those who love them and those who have relatives still in hospital or recovering at home. We hold all those before God. And so today we remember Megan Hurley, Elaine McIver, Courtney Boyle, Philip Tron, Wendy Fowle, Aileen MacLeod, Sorrel Luxowski, Chloe Rutherford, Liam Curry, Michelle Kiss, Nell Jones, Jane Tweddle-Taylor, Martin Hett, Olivia Campbell, Alison Howe, Lisa Lees, Kelly Brewster, Angelica and Martin Fliss, Georgina Callender, Safi Rose Roussos, and John Atkinson. We remember them. Going to remember them.
Well, helicopters are searching for people marooned 4 days after the worst floods and mudslides in the 14 years hit large parts of the country's southwest, killing at least 164 people. With more rains expected today, rescuers were racing to evacuate villagers from the most vulnerable areas, and emergency teams were rushing to distribute aid to nearly 500,000 people driven out of their homes. International correspondent Charles Stafford reports from Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Vital supplies of food and medicine loaded. We take off in a Sri Lankan Air Force helicopter from Ratmalana Air Base in the early morning. Below us, vast areas of the countryside remain underwater. People are using boats to navigate the roads that a few days ago they walked and drove along. These are the worst floods to hit Sri Lanka in almost 15 years. Around 500,000 people have been affected, more than 150 killed and many more still missing.
It is in very bad condition. The whole of area is covered with flood and lot of people affected in this area and other areas. No supplies, no medication, no food.
This time we need dry food, not prepared food. If we receive some dry food and medical supplies, it is much better.
After dropping off supplies, we take off again. Many people were swept away when the sides of mountains collapsed on their homes.
although the floods have subsided in this area in the last day or so, you can still see some of the landslides. You can see how the roads have been cut off. That means that many of the villages in this area are cut off. So the elderly, the sick and the infirm are relying on military helicopters like this one in order to be taken to hospitals for medical treatment.
In the last 2 days alone, the Air Force has flown more than 200 sorties into areas like this. The ambulance carrying this elderly man and woman can drive no further because a landslide has blocked the road. Terrified but relieved to be rescued, they are helped into the helicopter. It's a 15-minute flight over the mountains to the nearest town with a hospital. More than 2,000 Sri Lankan military personnel have been deployed.
You can watch us live on Facebook at The Neighborhood Newspaper, or you can also watch us on Facebook at The Neighborhood Live. You can also watch us on YouTube at The Neighborhood TV, or on your Android or iOS platforms with www.tntvonline.com. And that wraps our news at 4. I am Atta Charles. Enjoy the rest of your day, and once more for Nigerians, happy Democracy Day.